Hey, y'all, welcome to the show. I'm just going to go and get the sound set up. It usually takes a little pause there. Make sure our Amazon folks are ready. All right. Welcome to the Bring Your Worth show. My name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My main thing is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, or otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You can catch me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'll throw that up in the chat. There you go. So come through. My main thing is, again, helping you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. So helping you on your particular journey. My background is journalism, longtime journalist, and then became a father for the first time, primary caretaker. The exact same time I became an entrepreneur, bootstrapped 2 companies. My second company called Cuddler got really popular. We actually had the #1 app twice, actually, within a year. So we were arguably the biggest app in 2014. We ended up selling the company in 2015, around the time that my first son turned 2. And so now I've been helping all of y'all with this journey as far as being non-traditional entrepreneurs. The basic idea is that you don't have to sacrifice everything to make your mark in the world. I know I haven't. I'm super proud of the work that I've done, but I'm even more proud of being able to support y'all on y'all's particular journey. I don't know what the plural of y'all is. I think it's just y'all, individual or plural. You can subscribe to the Bring Your Worth channel for free. It's on YouTube. And shout out to y'all that are on Amazon. You can catch me on there too. Please subscribe here. You get notifications every time I have a new episode. Again, it's 11:30 Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Man, I've been having the show since late December of 2020. And been showing up for y'all every week, most of the time 3 times a week, sometimes 5 times a week early on in the show. And so I appreciate all the support. Just had my 150th episode on Friday. My math is a little bit off, but I think it was on Friday, 150th episode. So I couldn't have done it without y'all. So I appreciate that you're letting me know that you guys appreciate it, particularly all the great feedback that I've gotten over the guess we're approaching a year now. I have a new book coming out called Career Remix, Get the Gig You Want Based on the Skills You've Got, which is pretty timely if we talk about the Great Resignation, as the Wall Street Journal, other folks have called it, where some people are quitting their jobs, they're leaving their jobs. We've been sheltering in place, obviously, for going on 20 months now here in the U.S., much longer for my friends in Eastern Asia. You are approaching 2 years of sheltering in place. So, yeah. Appreciate y'all's resilience in that. But some of us are being sent home and saying, we can work remotely, and then realizing that we don't want to go back to work. How do we navigate that? Done several videos on the channel about that. Again, you can subscribe at youtube.com/BrownDamon. But I've done several videos about it where you can, there are ways that you can pivot into your next career without burning your bridges. So it's really important. This book has a lot of stuff that I talk about as a one-on-one coach. Some stuff you find in the YouTube channel. I solidify it in this book. You can go to mycareerremix.com to learn more about it. That'll send you to my website and also all the links where you can purchase it. You can also get it at your favorite retailer everywhere. I'm actually working with Barnes & Noble and their subsidiary Sterling with it. So shout out to them. It's been wonderful to connect with y'all and to just learn more about how we can navigate the next level of our careers. And hopefully I can help y'all with that too. All right. So today on the show, we're going to talk about how you can create an online business, or at least have an online presence without being on social media. If you've been not very active on social, any social web or whatever, over the last few days, you might have missed it. On Sunday, if I would remember it, I had the link, but you just Google it. On Sunday, there was a whistleblower report that was announced or highlighted through 60 Minutes about stuff that Facebook was doing. Not good. We'll leave it at that. That would take a half an hour just to talk about that. You can just look it up. And then on Monday, which is more important to our conversation, Facebook shut down completely for I don't know, definitely during the business day. I want to say 12 to 18 hours. Most of Monday, it was shut down. That means Facebook, that means Instagram, that means WhatsApp, because they're both of the latter two are Facebook properties. They're all shut down. And so if your business was based on Facebook, which I know some of y'all are, or if you're getting your business out through Instagram, or even contact people through WhatsApp for like coaching practice and all that, some of my fellow coaches, you can do any business. And as I've said in the past on the show, I know people that have 7, 8, in some cases 9-figure businesses, and they're totally dependent on social media. That scared me. That's why I got off of social media many, many years ago, particularly Facebook. I left Facebook 2 years ago. A few of them I don't even mess around with. You might catch me on Instagram, might catch me on Twitter, sometimes on LinkedIn. But the main place you'll catch me is damonbrown.net. The main place you'll catch me is this show. The main place you'll catch me is at joindamon.me, where I have an email newsletter where I send it to y'all every Wednesday, like today, at 5:55 a.m. for the last several years. That's how I connect with y'all. Owning this connection matters so, so much. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to recommend a few books that will help you own that connection, because again, they have these moments a few times a year, and I think they're going to get more increase and more increase, whether it's a power play from the social media companies or it's some type of incident like happened on Monday where suddenly you're not going to be able to access your customers or the people that you serve as much. And it's so, so important. Exactly. Own your work and your connections. Otherwise, why are you doing this independent thing? Why are you leaning so much on a third party that can turn out the spigot at any time? So let's dive into a couple of the books I think might help you on that journey. And thanks for the commentary. So the first book I would recommend would be A World Without Email by Cal Newport. Either you hear that title, what a provocative title. Either you're running for the hills or you can't wait for that world to occur. I'm in the latter. I remember the world without email. I am of a certain age where I remember contacting people, and it was you send a letter, then you send in a SACE, which is a self-addressed stamped envelope for a reply. That's how I started in the journalism business many, many years ago. Believe it or not that long ago, because I'm not that old. That was the standard. So email is relatively new. And Cal Newport's argument isn't that email needs to disappear. That's a misnomer. And I read an early copy of his book when it came out, I want to say in February. So it's not even that he wants email to disappear. It's more like he wants you to understand how much email takes away from our productivity, or more importantly, which he and I have in common, our focus. What are we focused on? And there's certain lessons and insights we can learn from the past and apply it to now. And the idea, which it's probably the biggest thing I learned from Cal, and I had an interview with him. I'll link to it in a second. The biggest thing that I learned from Cal was that email, or was reminded from Cal, was that email is relatively new. Again, email started really popping off when I was in like grad school. Not that far away from grad school. We're talking a handful of years, right? When I was an undergrad, email was, not everybody had an email address. It was kind of a novelty. And you had an email address through your college. I went to Oakland University. I went to Northwestern. I had those college email addresses. I had my Hotmail and stuff. But my point is that you had to be at the collegiate level. You had to be running your own business to have an email address. Now my sons, who are 8 and 5, have their own email addresses because it's part of their schooling, right? So email is relatively new. It's like 10 years from now, there being a book called A World Without Slack, right? But Slack was just invented like 10 years ago, right? Around the time I lived in Silicon Valley. So these are new concepts, which means just like all the other issues, or many of the issues that we have in the world today, the problems that we have, some of them are relatively new because they're relatively new technology or ideas, which means we can fix them. I'm thinking of the climate crisis and other things. These things are fixable because a lot of the biggest issues with them are relatively recently. They're not set in stone. He gets into this. I highly recommend it. Email is, of course, not social media, but it does have that same energy. It could be a world without Facebook. It could be a world without Twitter. I think that's kind of besides the point. And that's what I love about Cal's book, is that it goes deeper than just email's bad. It's more like saying email is a tool, as is social media, as are other things. He also has a really good book called Deep Work, which became a bestseller, which is how he became very famous and known. And he's also famously not on social media. So his take is so pure. We're about the same age. He's not on social media at all. I don't think he's ever been. That is impressive for someone. I'm in my 40s. For someone in their 40s, never be on social media. His take is intense. So if you want to hear more about his take, I interviewed one-on-one with him. I want to say this was late February, but it was a week that his book came out. And we had like a 25-minute, 30-minute interview. Thank you, Cal, for your time. And it's unedited. It's just raw. You can hear our kids in the background. And so it's like you're sitting and chilling out with us. If you want to get more insight into this idea of a world without email, again, you can replace email with other things like world without Slack, a world without Twitter, a world without LinkedIn. And I like some of these platforms, but they do not need to be the way that you run your business. Again, Cal is a very successful writer, best-selling author. He's not on social media. So you can also look at it from a meta way, not just what he's saying, but that he's actually an example of what he's saying. So he's definitely walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So the next book I would recommend would be Tribes by Seth Godin. As some of y'all know, I've been mentored by him and worked with his marketing seminar over at akimbo.com. That's akimbo.com. Highly recommend it. And I've had a chance to have a couple one-on-one sessions or at least some questions with him, which has been great. I love his work. As some of y'all know, I have a lot of videos that talk about Seth Godin and some of his best insights over the last 30, 40 years that he's been practicing on the channel. Again, you go to youtube.com/Brown Damon to subscribe at any time for free. Tribes is really good because it talks about creating the group that you're going to be moving with. It talks about how you're going to build, again, that tribe, build that community versus trying to go to another community. In other words, one of the things that we find, or things that I found as a coach and even as a practitioner with my own businesses, is that social media is kind of like a shortcut. So we can say, all right, I want to launch a new boot camp, which I have a boot camp online. Again, you go to DamonBrown.net and learn about it. Let's say I'm going to, hypothetically, I'm going to launch a new boot camp. I want to get 100 people through the door, which means they need to reach 1,000 people. So the quick way to say would be like, let me go onto social media, send out a 280 character tweet or a post on Facebook or a video on Instagram or what have you. Excuse me. And I'll go from there and do that. Cool. I did that. Great. And I'll just wait for people to pre-order it or to sign up for it. You just sit there. Maybe you'll do another tweet and then that'll be your campaign. It's kind of like a fire hose effect, unless you have a highly, highly curated list of people that are connected to you on social media. And like what happened just on Monday and on Sunday, again, you can look it up. Today is September. I'm sorry. See, September flew by. Something about being in quarantine. October 6th is today. So look it up. If you're looking at this in the future, go back to October 4th of 2021. There was no Facebook, no Instagram, no WhatsApp. So it has to be highly curated and it has to be available all the time. What if you were launching your big thing, whether it's a book or a boot camp, whatever? What if you're launching on Sunday or on Monday? Are you not going to have business for a day? It's like someone coming down and shutting down your business. It's like the city coming down and give you a bad rating and closing your doors because you were violating, or worse, the sidewalks aren't available at all, so no one can come to your brick and mortar place. I apologize for the mixed metaphors, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. This is what we're dealing with in the digital space. Digital space is part of how we're going to connect with people. But if you have an email list, like I have my free one at joindamon.me. If you have a channel where it would take a lot for YouTube to not make this available, even if it's not available, I have other ways to connect with y'all. The point is that this is highly curated, and it's and he talks about it, I think, a little bit in Tribes, but he has this idea, Seth Godin has this idea of permission marketing. So it's basically, you say, Damon, I want to hear from you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'm going to subscribe to your channel, youtube.com/Brown Damon. Damon, I want to hear from you once a week on Wednesdays at 5:55 a.m. West Coast time. So I'm going to go ahead and sign up at joindamon.me and get a newsletter from you every week. That's called permission marketing, as opposed to me just shooting stuff out, spamming people, whatever aggressive or potentially toxic thing could be happening there. Once you get into that mindset, then the people are highly curated. I do not have the biggest newsletter in the world. I know a lot of folks that do the Seth Godin newsletter, I think has like 1 million people, literally 1 million people, right? I'm nowhere near that. I know folks that are doing bigger numbers, but everyone that's joined my newsletter has opted in. Therefore, when I have a new book like Career Remix, Get the Gig You Want Based on the Skills You Got, which is coming out January 11th of 2022, people know about it and they're pre-ordering, right? That's different than me just doing a scatter shot. That permission marketing allows you to create a tribe. There are people that are interested in being side hustlers, solopreneurs, people who are trying to balance all these things. Again, I got 2 little kids. I'm the primary caretaker. So it's on me. So I have to do all this stuff while making sure that my family is straight. If you're interested in that, then you opt in. If you're not, then you don't. So I'd rather have a highly curated list, a tribe, as the book indicates, rather than be reaching at 10,000 people and less than 1% actually care about what I'm trying to do, right? Seth is a master at that. I learned a lot from working with him over the past couple of years. If you want to learn more about Seth and his work, you can check out the video that I did probably, I want to say like a month ago. And it's about minimal viable audiences. And believe it or not, it's about the very popular rapper 2 Chainz and Seth Godin and what they have in common. And they're actually saying the exact same thing. Yeah, it's one of my favorite shows that I've done. I think you'll appreciate the episode, particularly if you're curious about this minimal viable audience, which is essentially you curating your audience to the point where whoever you're speaking with is exactly who you're supposed to be serving. And then you naturally expand from there. I get much deeper into the video. The video is about 10 minutes, so it's not that long, but it's very deep, if that makes sense. And so I think you get some insight from that. My last recommendation for the show, as far as building your online business or your online community without worrying about social media, would be A Company of One by Paul Jarvis. Shout out to Paul. Hope you're doing well. Ironically enough, I think he left social media about 6 months ago, but he and I actually got a chance to connect about a year and a half ago when his book came out, and I got a chance to interview him for Inc. magazine. So I'll be sure and throw the link in there when this final video posts on YouTube. Anyway, this is an excellent book. Actually, I have a physical copy, which I still love the hardcovers. I will always be a bibliophile. Company of One is an excellent book. And the basic argument of the book is that, especially when I lived in Silicon Valley, we being a general thing, so not me, but in general, we considered success to be creating the next Microsoft, the FANG, they call it, creating the next Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, or Google. If you weren't doing it, or on a slightly smaller level, Oracle or Microsoft, if you weren't doing something on a grand scale, then what you were doing wasn't worthwhile. You have to scale. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. That's the basic argument, right? What I love in Paul Jarvis's book is it's called A Company of One, where it's people who are actually having small businesses, small being solopreneurships, being a couple people working together. My last startup, Cuddler, there were 3 of us. We didn't hire anyone. We had a couple contractors, but that was it. More like consultants, but that was it. That was on purpose because we didn't want to hire anyone at that time. And then making a good living or making impact on the world based on you being small, quote unquote. And I think it's so important to keep that in mind. This ties to the social media part, right? And you're right. So you understand what I'm trying to say. And this ties into the social media part because sometimes, or I'd say most of the time, when we're getting into social media, it's because we want to scale. We believe this is the way, perhaps the only way, that we're going to reach a certain number of people. Once you get into that mentality, as Seth Godin would say, then it turns up the ratchet. Then you have to do it, right? So if you're like, this business is going to be a failure unless I make $1 million this first year, unless I have 10 million customers, unless to be more specific with the metrics, unless my Twitter following is at 10,000 or 100,000, unless every Facebook post I put up gets at least 1,000 likes, then I'm failing. Number one, it gets into the mindset idea from Carol Dweck in their famous book, Mindset. I talk about that quite a bit in the upcoming book, Career Remix. Again, that'll be out in January. as far as having a fixed mindset, as far as looking at things very black and white. Once you start to work on your minimal viable audience, if you believe that you can do good, if not great work at a certain scale, and then you can increase that scale and do good work, even more good work, or more importantly, you might be able to do even better work at a smaller scale. And that's okay. Enough to sustain you, enough to take care of yourself and your family, enough to make an impact, enough to create a legacy. If you consider that as an option, then there might be ways where you don't want to scale. And I think we tend to get into this trap when social media gets involved. We're like, okay, we scale really quickly if we get X amount of followers, X amount of people listening to us in our clubhouse room, X amount of people following us on LinkedIn, et cetera, and ends up being the wrong race. Particularly, again, as what happened on Sunday and Monday, they can turn the spigot off at any time. And it's like, what power is that? So as I talk about in some of my videos, and I'll throw a link up in a second, you owning the path that you're on and what I call being a landlord, can't speak today, a landlord or a landowner at minimum, instead of being a renter. This is where it comes into play. If you come to any of my coaching sessions, if you watch a lot of the videos on this show, you'll hear me talk about that. In fact, I'll throw a video up in a second where I talk more about that. And that just doesn't mean that you have to own everything that you're involved with. Doesn't mean you don't do partnerships. It just means if you're a company of one, you have a higher chance of actually being in control of the narrative and be able to directly access your customer. I get much deeper into that in my video, which is very to the point, about how you can make money without Facebook. Almost exactly 2 years ago, I actually left Facebook. It was December 4th. shout out to Jay-Z. I think it was on his birthday. It was December 4th, almost exactly 2 years ago, right? So it was probably 25 months ago, right before, right when the pandemic was starting to start, which just coincidence. And I had left social media and all social media for like a quarter. So like a business quarter, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, and it being, I think I doubled my profits and it being one of the most profitable quarters of that year. That's because I used all these resources that's talked about in Tribe, Company of One. Again, Paul Jarvis's excellent book was not out yet, but it was the same type of vibe of me really building a relationship with y'all directly, just like I'm doing right now. I didn't have the show, but it was the same type of idea. Me connecting with y'all directly. No Twitter, no Facebook, no LinkedIn, no Instagram, none of that. Just me talking to y'all. And this was before the pandemic, so I was doing a lot of coffee meetings. I was living back in the Midwest in Toledo. I was doing a lot of coffee meetings. You can ask people, you can even go and read some of my ink columns at the time where I was talking about this. Even in wintertime, I think it was in wintertime, January, February, it was cold in Toledo, but still connecting with people and then building up my business in ways that I'm still, frankly, profiting off today. Profiting not just financially, but also in the relationship building and still having a strong relationship with the people that I coach, people that I mentored, the speaking engagements I got at that period of time, because I was focused on the relationship and building that minimal viable audience versus trying to reach everyone. That was without Facebook. So if you're really dependent on Facebook or another social media platform, I implore you, out of all the stuff I'm talking about today, grab the book, sure, but please watch this video right here. Not just our conversation, but the video I'm pointing to right here. You just click the link, check it out. Again, all of it's free. Just had my 150th episode, so there's plenty of other content, but please watch this video. If you're one of those who was stranded and had no idea how to reach your customers, I'll give you, I think it's 3 different techniques that I use to even become more profitable after I left Facebook. So important this week. That's why I want to make it the theme of this program. All right, so I hope these books really help you out. Again, the Bring Your Worth show is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. At 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. The Wednesday ones, when I do have a live show, it's always on Wednesday. So I'll be getting back to the lives now, which I appreciate connecting with you. And thank you for the comments. You can always subscribe for free at youtube.com/BrownDamon. And again, Career Remix is going to be out January 11th, 2022. So man, it's going to be out in like 3-4 months. Already starting to ramp up. I got some treats for y'all. It's going to be exciting to come out in January. And hopefully I'll be able to see some of y'all in person, depending on, frankly, where the world is. So we'll see what's going on. Until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care.